Welcome. The Pueblo Star Journal presents Soul Fresh, Soul Clean podcast. Soul Fresh, Soul Clean is a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast. Episode 1 was produced and narrated by Jocelyn Martinez and Gregory Howell.
Welcome to the Voices of Pueblo podcast, brought to you by the Pueblo Star Journal. My name is Gregory Howell, and I'm one of the co-founders and the managing editor of the Pueblo Star Journal. I'm very excited because today we're launching the very first episode of Soul Fresh, Soul Clean. And this is a new podcast, and it really does honor, first and foremost, someone who's been with us from the very beginning. And for all of you readers and listeners out there who have been following the Pueblo Star Journal, whenever you get hungry, you probably have noticed that there are these wonderful recipes that you can find in the same area that we have Thrive, which is a wonderful wellness column that's been written by Rachel Kutzgill. So one of the things I'd like to do just to establish this is first, welcome, Jocelyn. It's so exciting to have you here in the studio at the Pueblo Star Journal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I know this is going to be fun. And I told Jocelyn just a few minutes ago, I'm the bus driver. So I'm going to be just making sure that we stay on the road and we get to our destination so that we can really share this amazing story with our listeners. But there's a few points that I would just like to share with everyone. First of all, the Pueblo Star Journal is in its 5th year. And if you asked us 5 years ago where we thought we would be, I mean, everyone told us that we were absolutely crazy getting into the news industry because it was turned upside down. I think it's been turned upside down and over again over the last several years. But the one thing that has remained true is our promise to the community of Pueblo. And we really have done that in first our monthly print edition, which I'm pleased to say on March 6th is going to be climbing from 48 pages to 56 pages. So that's a shout out to everyone, not only people at the Pueblo Star Journal, all of our contributors, but to you, our readers, and of course now we've got listeners. But from that original print edition has evolved, of course, our website. We're getting about 160,000 visitors a month, so we're one of the busiest websites in town, and people are finding us, and that's exciting. In fact, they're finding us so much that our current 46 pickup locations will be expanding, and we're getting requests in Trinidad, Lamar, La Junta, Springs, Florence, and Canyon City. So people in those communities are asking, where can I get a Pueblo Star Journal? That was not even on our radar, but it just goes to show that stories of Pueblo and stories about things that are happening in Pueblo matter, and people want to know about that. So, but one of the things that we've done now, of course, originally print edition, then going digitally with the website and also with social media. Our podcast, this is a brand new one, which will be part of our whole portfolio. We're also going to be going into video news broadcast, and that is a podcast for another time, but it's called Mojo, Mobile Journalism. And I'm really excited because we're going to be meeting young people where they are, and they're going to be producing 2 to 5 minute news broadcast segments, and they're going to be doing it in teams, in cohorts. And I'm really pleased that we're going to be going into the classrooms in D60 later this fall. So we're literally going to be going into elementary, junior high school, and high school as part of a kind of a pilot program after this summer. So that'll be something to look forward to. But one thing that's happening now is, now that we've been around for 5 years, we're actually putting together our 5-year strategic plan. And one part of that 5-year strategic plan is we have now launched the Pueblo Star Journal Publishing Division. So we have our own publishing house, and we have signed contracts with Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Ingram, Indiegogo. So not only are we about to be publishing, but we also have the global distribution networks. So we're inviting anyone that has a story to tell. It can be a in fact, I have one of my first books that's now one of the first labels, which is called Water Tower Rising, The Knuckles Legacy, which is about the famous meatpacking plant here. And it really does cover the whole arc of that history. The other thing is that we're going to be looking at all subject matters. And in fact, Jocelyn, this is why we're doing this podcast. We're going to be publishing her very first cookbook. So we are really excited about that. But just in terms of where we're going to be moving in this podcast is this publishing division is really just a natural evolution of our storytelling at the PSJ. And for us, food is culture. It's not just recipes. And this cookbook is going to be the first title of its kind in our whole portfolio. And the focus today is exactly on Jocelyn. It's Jocelyn front and center. First, as a big thank you for all of your contributions monthly. I actually have made several of them. I know many others have. And I'm just going to let you kind of start with, your introduction here. Tell us a little bit about your story for those that don't know your story, and for those that do know your story, maybe something else that they need to know, and how have we arrived at this place today?
Well, that's a big question there, Gregory. No, first, I'm so excited just to be here and have this opportunity. I am also just honored to have been able to contribute to the Pueblo Star Journal for all these years and just share my passion for food and health and flavor and produce and Pueblo in general and just Colorado in general. So I really love that. And how we've gotten here, geez, I don't know, like 5 lives I've lived.
I was going to say, because I've had many lives, and learning from your dig presentation, how you literally, it was life or death. There was a moment there in your life where you were dealing with decisions that, most people hopefully never have to go through in their lifetime. And then, of course, all the other parts of that story, when you start looking at legal and who's responsible and why am I here and, well, what do I do now? I was kind of aware of it, but the way in which you shared that allowed people to understand how you really always have to have control over your wellness. It starts with you as an individual. And I just thought that was so powerful.
It really is. And so, like, a little backstory of anyone who's listening, what Gregory is talking about is I was one of the speakers at this year's dig, and my whole focus was really something that I really hadn't unleashed before. It's something that I'd spoken about. People who know me kind of know what I went through, but it was still, I guess you could say, a lot of trauma around it.
A lot of trauma.
But after my daughter, just short story, I ended up getting the Esher, which was a birth control implant from Bayer. There were a lot of things with it that were wrong and a lot of testings that were skipped. And we found those out years after being implanted with this thing. And ultimately what it did is it was leaking nickel and plastic into my body, and it actually created an autoimmune disease. So because of it, I have lupus, but I also have chronic disease, and I had to go through a whole plethora of things. I had H. pylori, I had all this stuff. And so I had to change the way I was living, and that included how I was eating, what I was putting into my body, how I reacted to stress, and even just dealing with that. Because you're right, there were lawyers involved, and there was a class action lawsuit, which I'm so happy to say that no other woman in the whole world can ever get this product again. Of course, we know they always come up with a new product, but that's kind of the start of my literally almost 20-year-long issue with being sick. And so for me, it was really important to start sharing that story so that people understood that, 1, they're not alone, 2, knowledge is power, but 3, that I had to heal stuff from something that happened to me. Right. And I did it through my food because, of course, I have some problems with pharmaceuticals, if you understand why.
Right. And then you find out, too, that you're not the only one.
Exactly.
That's a big deal, too, because oftentimes you get caught up in these kind of huge, class action, really, when you look at it from a legal standpoint. But here was a situation where, at first you're thinking, well, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize, well, it really isn't me so much. It's about, and that's a big part of that whole arc of that story, you know, and then realizing that you've been marginalized, and all of a sudden you find out, oh, there are other voices out here, you know, and you learn a lot, not only about yourself, but about others who have been experiencing the same or something similar.
Well, it empowers you once you realize that you're not alone and that you're not crazy.
Yeah.
Because what I learned through like a health crisis is Western medicine is great. Okay, if I get in a car accident or I need surgery or I find out I have, you know, maybe a really bad disease, we have cancer, there's other things.
Right.
There's medicines and there is a place for Western medicine.
Sure.
However, if you are dealing with illness and disease and sickness, I really just encourage people to look inward and look at natural ways of healing yourself, because we don't give our body enough credit for what it can do, because we've been conditioned. Like me and you know, I'm 45, you're
64.
There you go. So we're in that generation of listen to your doctors. Like, you don't know, like they know best, like they're trained and almost like conditioned not to question. And I learned that one of the most powerful things you could do is take your voice back and your power back. And the way I did that was saying, no, I feel like there's another way. And I went back to resources that our ancestors have been using forever, which is eliminate processed foods, understand what foods are making me sick, what's feeding these diseases, what's curing it, and really get aggressively and radically responsible for your own health. And that's like really where it comes from.
And I think and what's so powerful about that is it's all about wisdom. And wisdom is not radical, but it is so radical because we've gotten so far away from, you know, some of just what worked and what worked really well at a very, very basic human level. When you start looking at what we have to put in our mouths each and every day, what we have to do each and every day in terms of movement. I mean, there's so many things that really haven't changed in terms of how we survive, you know, as far as air, water,
sleep,
you know, food, sleep, shelter. I mean, it's pretty much the basics. And when we started the Pueblo Star Journal, one thing that I think is really beautiful about what has evolved is that we're not a traditional, you know, print newsroom. We actually have taken a stance, and we are a service and a deliberative newsroom, and we're nonprofit. So we're not controlled by any hedge fund. You know, everything that we do is here. The funding comes here. We put it back into the economy. But what's really beautiful is that when you start getting into, you know, storytelling, and you start looking at, you know, service and deliberation, intention, you know, we are a resource. The service part is we're a resource. We listen. And then we actually are a bridge. So we become an advocate. So when people pick up the paper, and you can pick up any Pueblo Star Journal going back 5 years ago, they're they are evergreen. So the stories resonate, you know, and it's fun now because I can pass out older issues if I know what some individuals or classrooms or groups are looking for. So we get requests all the time because they remember a certain story, or they remember a certain, you know, a profile, or they, if it's a human interest story, or if it's investigative, whatever it is. So, but I think it gets back to that whole part about, you know, whatever happened to wisdom?
Right.
What happened to kindness? What happened to love? You know, whatever happened to some of those basic things? Because oftentimes it seems like there's a lot of cruelty, there's a lot of meanness, and oftentimes it's intentional. Well, we clearly are the other, we're the other people on the other side of town. You know, we live in a different part of town.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we are here in the community. But I think you're absolutely right. And I look at it just being wisdom. We really do need to, you know, I grew up in Japan, lived there for 10 years. So I have a very strong affinity for, you know, when you talk about Western medicine, I have also seen, you know, what all the East Asian medicine, what their cultures have been doing for 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years.
The dynasties, right?
Exactly. So, but Pueblo too has an ancient culture, you know, more so than most communities in the United States, or at least one that the people think about history and they think it's something in the past. Man, history is alive today. We live and breathe it if we really do honor what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is this wisdom, and that's history, culture, arts, you know, food. It's all that stuff.
Yeah. So I guess like getting back to your question, I just wanted a little backstory of what like that even was, but that was really like the catalyst that created where I am today. So I come from corporate America. I was in corporate food, and then before that, I lived in Denver for 9 years, and I worked for some of the best chefs. And
I love
some
your
of the
stories
best
about Denver, and that's going to be
Don't
a part.
even get me started.
That's going to be a part of the cookbook, how it evolves.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
And I'll touch on that. But really, like health-wise and how I came here was, I had a health crisis. I decided that I knew I wasn't alone in it, and that when I was navigating my health crisis and I was learning how to eat again, and I was retraining my body and learning to build this relationship with my body again that I had neglected just because of life. And, you think you're invisible, invincible, not invisible, because no one is invisible. But,
it's a good point. It's a really good point.
So I decided that I was going to become a health coach, that I wanted to help others. And what I learned through that whole process, one of my mentors always said, first for me and then for others. And we are always our first clients. We are always usually the person who experiences or goes through something first. And I just knew that there were other people that needed a service in which I created with Soul Smile Health and Wellness and my business, but also just support.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create a service and a business that I needed when I was sick.
Right.
And so that's kind of how it all like came about.
Well, and the fact that we're actually going to be using this. I mean, the title of this podcast is Soul Fresh, Soul Clean.
Yes.
I mean, when you start what you just said, I mean, it all comes back to just something that is such at our core in terms of where it has to start, where it has to begin.
It's really coming back to self. I think we have learned to disassociate so much with our body and our self and as humans, and we're always looking for a quick fix. And unfortunately, we want to heal something really fast, and we don't give ourselves the credit or the grace of how far it takes for healing.
Right. And that's not only on a personal level, but just look at city government, look at just organizations. Everyone wants a quick fix.
Yeah.
If there's a problem, they want a quick fix.
I want a pill.
Right.
I want something to fix it.
Pass an ordinance and clean up that neighborhood, whatever it is.
Right.
Everyone wants a quick fix.
I don't want to deal with it.
Exactly. And that's the other big problem is people don't show up. Now, we can talk about the pandemic and how the pandemic tried to shut us all down. And I know that's a part of kind of how you have approached this, because trying to shut down humanity is really problematic.
It is.
But here we are in a situation where we're trying to, at the Pueblo Star Journal, one of our whole goals is just to get people to show up. If we can get them to show up, that was the whole point behind the dig, was I knew that people could break bread and they can share stories. Because we've been doing that since we crawled out of the cave the first time.
Right.
We probably should have stayed in the cave a little bit longer. But the fact that we crawled out of our caves, we can break bread and we can share stories. That is a universal truth. And I think that's where we are with the paper. And hopefully, as we have been working on this cookbook now for a few months, and just in terms of the vision, that's exactly what hopefully the cookbook will do, is that individuals, families, kitchens, organizations, schools, they're going to all show up, and they're going to really look at this as an opportunity to celebrate, what you have so beautifully created in just a matter of years, with your company. And that's what's really exciting, because, you have an amazing relationship with food. You have, as you've talked about in terms of your own life and the turning point when all of a sudden it was like, I can make a difference. I first have to start with myself, but I know I can help others. And then talk a little bit about the pandemic, just because this is really important, because, things changed during the pandemic. And, I think you're not only dealing with your own personal journey, but you're starting a business, you're trying to help others. And clearly, the pandemic was a turning point. When you talk about that. And I think there are lessons to be learned, because there are people still reeling. Some people may never come back because of what happened.
It's kind of crazy to think that was 6 years ago.
I know. I'm still like,
whoa,
when was that?
Did that happen? So a year before the pandemic, I was actually in a beta program kind of situation with Soul Smile Health and Wellness. So, our main focus is meal prep.
Right.
We focus on gluten-free and dairy-free. One, because I'm gluten-free and dairy-free,
Right.
but two, it's like the number one allergens. It's the most inflammatory because of the way it's made, the way we grow it, how we produce it and everything else. And so that's why I cook that way. I also cook for the seasons because I think phytonutrients are huge. And so I kind of had a beta program to see if it was something that would even work in Pueblo.
Right.
Because 6 years ago, there wasn't no meal prep in Pueblo.
Right.
And so I started a beta program. The first day, we launched, I had 2 people. And then the next day I had 5. And then I remember telling my husband, I could do 15 people. I could do 15. Like, I won't do any more than 20.
Right.
I won't do any more than 20. But it was more like a need, right?
Right.
And then before I know it, I was up to like 25 people.
And was that mostly by word of mouth? I mean, how did that?
Was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I have a lot of huge thank you to Southwest Motors. My husband works there, and a lot of them I was feeding, and
so
they
you were
jumped on
keeping
board.
them alive, and happy.
And they were supporting me, and they were also helping me with okay, this could really happen. And so then in 2020, and Pueblo doesn't have, back then they didn't have a lot of commercial kitchens.
That's right.
There weren't a lot of options. And so I was really trying to find a space in which I could do this because I come from Cisco. So I know food safety.
Big old
I know
Cisco. Big trucks that come in and load up our restaurants. And
so I knew the logistics, like the laws, like you can't cook out of your kitchen, like there's all these things that you can't do. And so I'm a firm believer on doing things the right way because I don't like to live in fear. I don't believe in lying because it always comes back. Like if you don't like it, like I'm just going to say it. But anyway, so 2020, I found a kitchen and it was within Health Solutions. There was a bistro in there and I was brought in. I did an RFP. And so I had gotten it. I had signed for my brick and mortar 4 days before the lockdown.
Oh my gosh.
So I went from
and that really did kind of, the lockdown was it was like someone just
like
dropped.
You were done.
Yeah, it was like, it was over with and done.
So the unique thing with me, which is a blessing and amazing all at once, was I had this pivotal moment of like, oh my gosh, do I pull out? Like, is this God's sign? Like I shouldn't do this. But our agreement was that I was going to do the meals for their rehab center. So in lieu of rent, I did rent.
Oh my gosh. So it was like in kind.
Yes.
You literally.
Yes.
So that's beautiful.
I used the space and then I did breakfast and lunch for the rehab center for a year and a half. And just.
You must have learned so much just doing that too.
Yeah. And it was like, I felt like I was serving a purpose. These individuals, they need to be taken care of and they should be eating nutritiously. I mean, it's a huge part to go through emotional change and physical change and dealing with addiction and being in a rehab. The last thing that their minds and their body needs is shit food.
Right.
And
were you able to actually then kind of present your platform? The way that you do it, with the gluten-free.
I did.
So you were able, it was like a test kitchen.
Yes.
Really?
And so we were there and we, it was crazy.
A year and a half too. I can't believe. Yeah. That's resonating like that. Was that 100 years ago?
I
was
know.
That just
it
6
was
years
crazy.
ago?
And it was like amazing because I never shut down. Like the world was shut down, but at 5 a.m. I was still driving.
Right.
And so I got to witness the world kind of in a different way where everyone kind of went to sleep. I was still awake.
Well, you were an essential worker.
Yeah.
You were basically an essential worker.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to be doing that or people would not be getting their daily nutrition. And there were a lot of people, a lot of first responders who had false choices. And I was involved in many of those situations, especially with childcare, where we had to create, there was a false choice. What happens if you have 2 first responders in the household? They've got 3 kids. Who's going to stay home?
Right.
Was a false choice.
Yeah.
So it was a really fast, there are a lot of lessons to be learned, and we're still I think there still is a heavy PTSD with a lot of, and some people will never recover from that.
No, and like the greatest thing too was there was PTSD and people were afraid to go out and they were afraid and restaurants were closed and it was confusing and people's way of life had changed. And so I was still able to deliver to people's houses.
Right.
I was still delivering where I needed to with no contact.
Right.
And so For
That
us,
just is amazing that you naturally, there was a reason for that. You were in the right place at the right time, and that was your vision, but you also then immediately answered the need of an organization that had to find a solution.
Right.
And you just happened to be the human being right there front and center.
I'm like, hi,
I'm Jocelyn.
I'm
I
here.
can do that. I can do that.
I'm not scared. No, so it was really great. And so we were able to just grow and grow and grow as the world opened up because we never really closed.
Right.
And we learned a lot through that experience. And then after a year and a half, our space got sold to another company at Health Solutions,
Right.
and they got rid of the bistro. So I had a month to find a new space, which was insane. And
well, at least they gave you a month, because sometimes people know on like a Monday after a Friday that, oh, by the way.
Well, I'm going to tell you, a month in the restaurant world is like you're behind 4 months already.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so I pivoted like a crazy person that I am.
Right.
And I ended up finding this amazing food truck, and I had it in my house. It's not even a truck. It's a trailer. It's 45 feet.
Right. No, it's pretty big. Well, we did a story, in the Pueblo Star Journal early on about
huge.
that part of your journey with pictures of you inside the long trailer. It's like,
no, it has been a learning experience. This January, we actually celebrated 4 years in the trailer.
That's amazing.
And it's awesome, and we love it. And we actually changed the city law to do it. We were closed for 7 months. I think I lost 3 lives. I got gray hair. I think I had a mental breakdown. But
you did it.
I did it.
You did it.
I did it.
And that's the best part about it.
Yeah. And so much came from that. I feel so blessed now. Now, we have our meal prep, which is great. And we're doing about 150 to 200 meals a week.
Mm-hmm.
We do caterings. We do special events. We travel. So we don't just do events here in Pueblo.
Right.
But then I'm a traveling chef. So
yeah, this is amazing, because you tell me about places where you're like this celebrity chef in some mountain resort, and you're taking care of people. That's amazing.
It's amazing. And sometimes I want to pinch myself that this is what I get to do now, and that it was created from a space of sickness.
Right.
It was created from a space of uncertainty. It was created from a space of, well, screw it. I'm going to bet on myself, because the purpose was bigger for me. I knew that there were people that needed what I had, and that I was willing to understand and learn and figure out how to change all the foods that we love and turn them into gluten-free, dairy-free versions so that everyone can feel included. And it's more than just food. It's about experience. I want people to feel confident, capable, courageous, to feed themselves and fuel themselves in a nutritionist way and live their best optimal lives. And that's literally what I want.
Well, and that's a calling. It literally is a calling. When you actually realize that you're in that space where you have a choice, and because you are passionate and you're committed, and it's coming from your own lived experience, you know that you can make a difference. And I think that those people that find that moment where it literally is a calling, there's a lot of light, and you're just like, whoa, what can I do? How can I help? How can I contribute? How can I make a difference?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people out there, and I'm hoping people who are listening, because the problem right now is I always call it noise and swirl. Mm-hmm. It seems like half of our day is noise and swirl. So that only leaves you with another half of the day. And, we really do need to break through a lot of that noise and swirl and get back to living, a real life, that is meant to be lived to its fullest without all the distractions.
One of my biggest things, and that's one of my biggest drivers, is to just show up. And so I have been...
It's the hardest thing to do.
It really
People
is.
don't want to show up anymore.
Because it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to show up. It's scary to be vulnerable. You don't know what you're going to show up to.
And who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Who's going to judge me or say something about me?
Right.
It is scary.
So in 2019, I was able to speak for Health Coach Institute, which is one of the biggest health coaching institutes in the nation. And I was able to go speak on their stage and tell my story. And at the time, my story was really about, loving the woman I am and becoming who I am. And at that moment in my life, there was so much uncertainty in what I was doing and what I was learning, and I was shedding, and all this stuff was happening. The only thing that stayed true to me was to just show up. And I used to say, I'll go to the weird places you show me. Like, God, like, tell me where you want me to go. Like, I will just show up.
Right.
And so I get these weird callings of being like, go to this place, Jocelyn. And I'm like, why? And then all of a sudden I'm standing in line and this woman's talking to me. And all of a sudden we're talking about how, if her stomach problems are happening, maybe she should cut out dairy. And I talk about weird things with people all the time. And it's because I feel like there's this thing inside of us that we can feel, and it's like, just go there, just show up.
Yeah.
And we so much shut it out.
Yeah, that's
if
hard.
we just show up, those are the moments that our lives change.
And that is so hard to listen to yourself, honor yourself first, because there's that little voice going in there and you've got all these distractions. But it's so hard. I mean, right now, the biggest problem we have with civic engagement is people aren't showing up. But when they do, it's magical.
It's because we have forgotten to trust ourselves.
Yep.
And so we second guess everything instead of trusting our one basic thing, which is our intuition. And that goes to our food and to our health and to why I do this is listen. Our body is going to tell us. Our body is going to scream at us. It's going to get mad and it's going to say, hey, you're not listening. And we have to look back at what we can control. And we can control things. We can control what we put into our body, what we put on our body, and what we put into our mind.
Those are choices. Those are choices that we make. And again, it gets back to wisdom. Knowledge. And so I think for us right now, what's really exciting is not only the way that the newspaper has evolved, how this project is evolving with your cookbook, but, it really is about showing up. It is about, sadly, we get into these situations. I deal with this all the time. I will always go into a room. And of course, when I look at the room, I might know 60 or 70% of the people. I'm hunting for the 30% I don't know. But then when I start the conversation, I'm like, I'm trying to get away from all the politics because sadly that oozes in. And sometimes people won't even talk to other people because they feel that tribe is not worthy. Well, I'll go in and I'll say, okay, who likes the color orange? Everyone raise your hands. Everyone, okay, that's a good place to start. We have common ground.
Who likes green chili?
Exactly. Who likes green chili? Because at the end of the day, what I find so amazing is that we are more alike than we are different.
Exactly.
And why do we spend so much time in that noise and swirl of such a minority part of who, that I think what you just said is getting to that place where you can show up, forgetting about what people are going to say or do. And I think the more you show up, and then secondly, it's not just about showing up, it's about doing the hard work. Sometimes that's about yourself.
Yeah.
How do you make those decisions properly? That's where wisdom, cohorts, mentorship, cookbooks, all those things can help you in that journey.
You learn to shut out the itty bitty shitty committee.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That little thing
and
in the back of your mind.
They're in every street corner too.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a little party going on and it's like, okay, they're not invited.
Right.
Just keep them at bay.
Yeah, so I'm excited. This has been an amazing journey. Health is not linear. I deal with health issues all the time.
Right.
Just a year ago, I cut out beef and pork because it was causing inflammation in my body.
Right.
And so those are the things.
Isn't that fun when you actually, you think about it, it seems really simple, but you got to listen to your body. You got to take the time to understand, well, I wonder if because of doing this, if then this, if that, then this, you kind of start, again, it's listening.
Yeah.
Again, it's studying, it's learning, it's trying to figure out. There's nothing better than figuring out something for yourself. We're always worried about everyone else and taking care of them. Isn't it kind of nice that you can kind of step back and go, damn, if I'm really feeling good, well, I'm going to be better for others.
Yep.
I'm going to be a better steward. I'm going to be a better ambassador. I'm going to be a better person in my community because I know I'm whole.
Yeah.
Or almost whole. We're never really whole. That's the journey.
As close as possible.
As close as we can get.
Yes.
But one of the things I'd like to talk about before we start talking about the actual book is, we've kind of developed this philosophy. You know, we've been talking about key themes, and for example, deprivation is not sustainable. There's a lot of things,
not.
you know, gluten-free and dairy-free, but joyful. And I love the word joy. We need more joy in our lives. Seasonal eating. Why eating is an experience. And this I love because, you know, people will show up for an experience, but they're not going to show up, you know, if they have to pay a certain amount of money for admission or still there's going to be sometimes a transaction there.
Yeah.
But an experience is really important. What are they going to take away? You know, what are they going to do when they get home, when they talk to their friends, their kids, their classmates, you know, at church, you know, their church mates. But, and this is something that I am so on the hunt for, the death of the dinner party. I want to do a whole podcast on the death of the dinner party. And what did we lose?
Yeah.
So I know we've touched on a little of those, but, you know, again, just before we go, because the next part is we're going to talk about what's going to make this cookbook different from all the other ones. Talk a little bit about just kind of how we're taking on this project and what is kind of the philosophy, what is kind of the kind of the driver, you know, that we're keeping with us each and every day as we move forward with this project.
So that's
really loaded. That's loaded.
That's just you, Gregory. I love it. You know, like, remember what you asked me. There was 5 questions in there.
And I knew you could answer all 5.
I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, there you go.
No, so okay, deprivation is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Let's go there. That is like key. I will tell everyone that if you are eating just chicken, rice, and broccoli, you are malnutritioned. You are nutrient deficient. We need to be eating the rainbow. We need tons of phytonutrients. Each color represents a different mineral that we are lacking, and we all need them. There's a reason why God made food different colors.
I love that part of it because that's so easy.
It's like eat
whether
the rainbow.
Whether you're a 5-year-old or a 95-year-old, eat the rainbow.
Exactly.
I mean, sadly, all the other rainbows are cereals with like 500 pounds of sugar in them and candy.
Yeah, so that's like my whole
that.
thing. My whole thing is if you're on any kind of health journey,
right,
and you are like, I'm going to go on a fad diet. And believe me, I have done every fad diet out there. And I'm telling you, it was probably the catalyst to why my illness hit so hard. But deprivation, if you are eating deprived, you will not sustain it. And I promise you're going to go back to your old habits. So it has to be flavorful. It has to have an experience.
You're going to be a bad neighbor. You're going to be a bad husband, a bad friend if you're deprived.
Oh, you're grumpy. Have you ever been hangry?
I don't want you to show up if you're deprived. No, for sure.
Go home.
So
that's huge.
And then you talked about this gluten because, you know, this is I love because I have eaten your food before in many situations. And, you know, everyone talks about gluten and they talk about dairy free. I mean, there is the vegan and that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But, you know, people say, oh, well, there's no flavor. But that's so not the case.
It is so
You
not.
have so beautifully taken that, you know, that misnomer and just turned it upside down.
Well, thank you. That was my whole point because when I was going on this journey and I was like, oh, I lived in Germany. I love bread. I love cheese. I love
it's a bad
cured
place
meats.
to be. Yeah, exactly.
I love, you know, all the things. And so when I found out I couldn't eat bread and cheese, I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Something's wrong. You have the wrong diagnosis.
And I mean, I love pizza. I love chicken enchiladas. Like, I love all these things. And I said, there's no way that this is sustainable. And how am I supposed to sustain this kind of lifestyle to sustain health if I can't even eat this, if I can't find anything
There's
like
no
this?
joy. You take away the joy.
So and then the other thing, I mean, this was back I went gluten-free, dairy-free in 2018. So that was almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago. There was not what there is today. There is so many options today and so many great companies. And believe me, I've tried them all. I have lists of ones that don't work and ones that do.
Don't go there.
But the greatest part about it is I was like, I'm going to change all the food we love and create it so you can't tell. One, for those people that are like, gluten-free, dairy-free, like already has a bad rep. Two, that way everyone can eat it. So that's like one thing with my catering events and like my retreats. I cook everything that way. That way everyone is taken care of. No one feels left out. Everyone feels special. And I'm telling you, it changes every event, every time when people can come up and say, I'm celiac, I'm this, and it is so amazing. I haven't eaten this in years because you can't find the combos together.
I mean, that's almost like a long lost friend,
Yeah.
that you haven't seen in like 20 years, and you walk into the room and you go over and you go, oh my God, I haven't seen, I can actually enjoy that.
my
I
gosh.
can actually have a conversation. I can go home and say, I'm fulfilled, just putting a little bit of joy into someone's.
There's nothing like going to a wedding or a summit or an event. Like for me, like I'm not going to lie, like 90% of the time I get stuck eating a salad with some oil or like something.
Right.
And
it's an afterthought.
Right.
It's not a
They're
forethought.
like, oh, well, who cares, right? About them. And it's sad because usually I pay the same amount. Usually it's, a special. But how great is it when you can go to an event, you can walk through a buffet just like everyone else. You can sit with your friends and your family and enjoy the same thing. Right. And then you go home and say, wow, I felt so included.
Right. Exactly.
Because you don't. It's like for me, like pizza. I love pizza.
I know. And it's so hard to eat a salad and string it out for an hour.
I am so tired. I'm sorry. Love you, whoever created this, but I'm so tired of the cauliflower, hard as a cracker, pizza crust. You know what? I don't want it. So I will go to Marco's in Denver. In 5 Points.
Yep.
And they have a bomb gluten-free pizza crust.
Yep.
You can get vegan cheese. And so, there's little things like that.
Right.
That there are people doing it.
Right.
But going back to like my whole point was like, even today, it's hard for me to find gluten and dairy free together when I'm looking out there in the world for a quick bite. And so with my meal prep, I wanted it to always be that way. Right. And then just, if it doesn't matter to you, who cares? You can't even tear it. It's delicious.
And that's what's really, so you've kind of flipped the paradigm, you've kind of turned it upside down, and you've made it universal.
But with the sustainability fact.
Right.
I make it convenient.
Right.
So even if convenience and it isn't the health aspect, you still get taken care of.
Well, and the other thing too, and we've talked about this before, is, Pueblo, one of the beautiful stories about Pueblo is that usually during the Industrial Revolution, and we're talking like the 1800s, and then of course Pueblo being such an industrial city, we never really lost the mesa. We kept all those farms. Usually that was something that was lost when you had something as large as the steel mill here. Yeah. But what was so tragic, and even to this day it still can be a problem, is all that great fresh food just went straight up the Front Range.
I know.
And never even stopped here. Sometimes it would go up there and then it would come back to Pueblo.
No, it still does that.
No, I know it's still, and the Pueblo Food Project.
But that's great, because that's getting the Pueblo,
Right.
Pueblo green chilies, right? Like getting its name was able to actually get it onto Cisco trucks. Right. And now it's shipped, nationwide,
it's
which is great.
No, and what I have to say, this was the beauty of when the Pueblo Food Project first came. I mean, it was just recognizing what we have.
Right.
And then they became, in just a matter of about a year, the largest food distributor in Pueblo County, just in a minute. Plus, we have 28 family farms in Pueblo County.
Yeah.
Do the math. I mean, per capita, that's like more than any other part of the state of Colorado. So what's really amazing is, and this is true even of the industrial landscape, we've got all this infrastructure. Whether you're talking about agriculture, or whether you're talking about industry, manufacturing, commerce, Pueblo is really lucky because we don't build that infrastructure. Ag, I mean, once you lose fields, sometimes you never get them back. Sometimes you can, but it takes a lot of time and effort. But one of the beautiful things is that, in the trajectory of the work that you're doing, that is kind of an embodiment of what you've always been able to do. When you talk about sustainability, that's beautiful when we can actually just go less than a mile or 2 miles and we have access to what has grown right here in our own backyard.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things. I always tell people farm season's here. It's my favorite time of year. You will find me at the farms every week picking out my produce. That's I'm
That's
out
got to
there.
be a new column that we do too.
We should.
And it's seasonal. And I think we need to say, Jocelyn's in the field. Where are you?
Earlier this year, when I was doing Palmer, because we did Bike to Bessemer.
Well, let them know that was beautiful. I rode the Bike the Bessemer, but when I finished the Bike the Bessemer, oh my God, Jocelyn, you can tell them what you did.
We did probably over 100 pounds of produce for that event. But we went out to Rockies and got all this produce for Bike to Bessemer. And so it was really funny. I was there, and Lindy Webb,
Yep. I love Lindy.
Lindy's great. And she was there getting something for a cooking class, and she took a picture of me, and I'm holding like stalks and all this stuff, and it's like Jocelyn in the wild.
Right, exactly.
Out at
that's
the
what
farms.
we should call it, Jocelyn in the wild.
We
Seriously.
should. It's my
there you
favorite
go. You
place.
heard it first here. This column is going to be coming later this year when we get into the farm season. Jocelyn in the wild.
I love it. I am here.
You have to wear a leopard outfit or something like that.
I don't think so.
Not that wild. Not that wild.
Animal prints aren't my thing.
Okay. We'll get you a little PSJ scarf that's made with leopard.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Something from the wild. But no, I think what you really kind of shared with us, and why it's so much, and if if you've just joined this podcast just now and we're laughing hysterically, I think that's one of the other beautiful things about this project is when we get together. Luckily, I think we are crazy, and that's part of the joy of being kind of innovative and creative and not afraid to try something new and different. So I think what's really fun in just kind of talking about this philosophy, talking about deprivation is not sustainable, talking about gluten-free and dairy-free, this notion of seasonal eating, which, you're out there, you're front and center when the season arrives. And this notion that we've talked about where eating is truly an experience. The death of the dinner party, that's something. We're going to save that for another. But I think we all agree, what happened to the cocktail parties? And you're a mixologist too. So that was one of the other beautiful things because the Pueblo Star Journal is also going to be publishing the Pueblo Food Guide and a little black book, which is going to be the best cocktails in town. And that was how Jocelyn and I kind of got on this train of, talking about, how do we get this information out to the community? What's the best format? What's the best way? Of course, we've got all these digital, but there's something about being in the kitchen in particular, or being behind the bar, and having that black book or that cookbook,
as bartenders, we always had our little black, our bartender's book back there.
Right.
I mean, if we used it, most likely we were going to ask you what flavor your drink was and come up with something, right? And they love it. You
kind of know what works.
Right, exactly.
And what state you're in when you order it. So you kind of know, how far you have to go to really make this an experience for that particular customer.
And people love books. Like me personally, I mean, I just did a post about this. So, growing up in high school, I was in advanced lit. I've always loved literature. Dante's Inferno, the Canterbury Tales, all those things. I love to read. And so in my 20s, one of my big things, especially when I was pregnant with my son, I used to go and sit in bookstores and I would just read books in Denver. And I used to do that all the time. And then when my son was born and I just didn't want to be in the house by myself, I would go to like Tattered Cover downtown. I
love the Tattered Cover.
Which they closed it. Don't even get me started.
No, there's still people mourning, I think.
I am mourning that store.
No.
On Wazee? Right. Come on.
Well, we should do, and this is just coming. I haven't thought of it. Maybe at the back of the cookbook we have, Jocelyn's reading list.
Maybe I do have a bunch.
Suggested reading, other ways that you can expand your knowledge base. I have to say, the reason we started the Pueblo Star Journal, we started as a print product, monthly, and we're going to honor that until the last day, the last press runs. But print is something because I'm a firm believer. I'm kind of old school, but I don't think it's old school.
No.
I think it's we're talking about self-care, giving yourself that moment where you're going to sit down or stand up, however you like to read, upside down, wherever, on the riverbank, poolside, wherever it is. But when you are able to take that book, that magazine, that newspaper, put it in front of you, and shut down everything else. You might have headphones on with music playing. Some people can do that. Some people can't. But at the end of the day, you give yourself permission to have a moment or a long time, depending upon how much self-care and time you have. But you're giving yourself that moment to actually play, giving yourself to relax, to delve into, to explore, to discover. And I think there's something about it's very visceral.
It's tangible. It's like you can hold it.
Yeah.
And so I love books. I love putting place marks. I love cookbooks. I've gotten a lot of cookbooks from estate sales and I love it. I think one time I might have brought home like 20 cookbooks because whoever this woman was had
she had really good taste.
A plethora of health and wellness cookbooks and Japanese and Asian and Southern, and it was great. And I just love cookbooks. I love the cookbook that you gave me, the white trash cookbook.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even know that existed.
Dying.
And then a friend of mine happened to give it to me, and white trash cookbook, because it's beautifully done.
It is.
I mean, but literally when you read, that's something too. And I think we're going to talk about that in a minute, is the structure of your cookbook. Because when you list that white trash cookbook, I knew that some of these things existed, but it's hilarious.
It is.
Because they really, truly, and the publisher out in Berkeley, California that published that is a really good independent, I don't know if they're still around, but they really did only publish things that were worthy. And it's hilarious. It sounds, but it is, I mean, half the world is probably in that genre.
Or is probably eaten something. But
right, or have been to someone's house where that's what was served.
Yeah.
And it was, it was clearly of the hostess or the hosts, kind of portfolio of what they could pull out of the refrigerator or the cupboard or from wherever.
And when I'm like getting ideas for our monthly menus, or I have events coming up, or I have retreats, like I have cookbooks that I go to and I get inspiration from and I get ideas from. I travel with cookbooks. I have about 3 or 4 cookbooks that I have done that are digital. If anyone's ever interested, I have those on my website and you can order them. But
that's right. We should do, I think one of the things we've been talking about, and this is something that's in the works, we're going to have a landing page, a section of the website where we can have these resources available so we can point to, click through, because I think, the more people that have access, to what you have created, it's just this knowledge base. It's all wisdom, and let's celebrate that, and let's make sure that people have access to that, and then they'll just click through right to your website,
and then
we'll clean it all up that way. That'd be fun, because it is hard to curate all that. So we'll find some some touch points. So you heard it first here. A lot of firsts here on this podcast.
Well, I love it. So I'm excited about all of this.
Well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about what makes this cookbook different. And this is kind of, we're going to be really kind of shifting gears here and talking about, the structure. I mean, what is this going to, because we all have these ideas in our heads of what a cookbook is.
Right.
But, we have, of course, you're the thought leader behind all this. You're the author. You're actually the one with the lived experience. And I'll let you talk about this. We've got photographers. We've got local testing. We've got a Pueblo voice that we're really going to make sure that we honor. It's not a celebrity-driven cookbook, although we could call you a local celebrity. That's especially when we get out in the fields in the farm time, when we get out there.
I love it.
You'll be the local celebrity. And we're not going to be doing the Southwest. It really is something unique to our community. But the best part, and this is why I think it's so perfectly suited for the Pueblo Star Journal, is it's really rooted in story.
Yeah.
Story and season. And as far as we're concerned, storytelling is kind of a buzzword now. But you know what? Storytelling has been around since we all first started walking around and wondering, what do we do as humans?
Right?
We tell stories.
What is this world?
Yeah, exactly. We tell stories, and some of us are really good. Some of us never told the stories, but we're good listeners.
Right.
So, there's a lot of different places for us, and that's what's so beautiful about this whole journey that we're now that we've embarked on this journey. But this is my favorite part about it, and I'm so glad because, the Pueblo Star Journal now has really taken a very fun kind of turn. It's not really a turn. It's more of an addition to our storytelling portfolio. But humor is so important.
It is.
And of course, we've always had cartoons. We've always had some fun stories. But now we have Steel City Lucy, which is really a well thought out, well planned, going back to the 11th century as far as all the crazy people over in history who have felt that our story as humans has gotten to the points where sometimes we can't tell the story. We can't even get in the same room. We can't show up.
Yeah.
All the things that we're talking about now, if we replace humans with animals, boy, it becomes really clear, really quick. So Steel City Lucy is just but the one thing that I love, and it's something that's central to who you are, and if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, which you will be because this is the first one in this series, but humor has got to be a part of. And for me, if it's not funny, if it's not happy, if there's no joy, I don't even want to go there.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad, and I'll let you share, because I love, and again, this is from your whole life. There have just been these amazing, just milestones, little incidents, triggers, situations, encounters, with fame and fortune and everything in between. And they're hilarious.
Yeah.
And they're going to be part of the cookbook.
They are. So I'm really excited about this. So for one thing, you did ask, like, what do you want like readers to feel? And what do I want this to be? Like, this book is all about like stories. And I want whoever reads this, one, to like, if they know me, they're like, oh my gosh, I could hear Jocelyn right now. Or two,
I can see her in the kitchen doing that.
Or two, oh my gosh, I want to know this person. Right. And so I want it to be like friends sharing stories, and cooking in your kitchen is really what I want, and what I want people to experience. And I mean, life is funny. Life is...
It should be.
There should be funny aspects of life, right? Like, we've all went through trauma. They're all hard parts in our life. But even through that, there are moments of joy and moments of excitement. And those are all opportunities to grow. And so my whole point of this cookbook is for it to be funny.
Yeah, it has,
I want my stories to come out somehow. So in my 20s in Denver, I have just always been this person that weird stuff happens to. It's like, oh, that's Jocelyn. One of my dear friends calls me Grace. She's like, oh, there's Grace,
Right.
So that's
there
one thing.
Okay.
I have it tattooed on my arm gracefully to remind me, hey, sometimes you're a little clumsy and you're a little whatever, but there's Grace.
Right.
And so with this, I want to share parts of my life. And in my 20s, I always said I was going to write a book. And me and my friends used to joke, and they were like, Jocelyn's going to write a book, and it's going to called What the Bleep Really Happened. Right. And so I was like, okay, so I've been having all these compilations of stories and experiences that I've had through my life. And I realized that they're key parts of my journey in food. They are experiences that I've had in the restaurants that I've worked at. They're experiences I've had in the industry. They've experiences that I've had personally as an industry professional, that really make who I am today.
Right.
And some of those stories are really hilarious. They're funny.
I've been fortunate, I know. And it'd be a spoiler alert, so we can't.
And they are.
They're hilarious. I've heard several of them, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall just for that 30 seconds when that dish went this way, or when this person said this, or it's hilarious.
And these are like real stories of my life. Like, these things have happened. And so I thought to myself, okay, so if we're going to do a cookbook, why not combine them and have these really awesome stories in these random places where someone's reading, like, maybe, let's say, a tres leches cake, and there's this crazy story in there that's not about cake at all, but yet maybe it links back to an ingredient.
That's right.
And so I thought to myself, this is a way to kind of do both. And I'm so excited. There's a book I read, and forgive me, I forgot the title of it right now, but it's about this woman and her roommate, and they have all these crazy journeys. And through the book, she'll cook like their favorite hangover sandwich or their favorite something.
Wow.
And at the end of this novel is all the recipes.
Oh, what a beautiful, that's comfort food at its best.
And so I was
at the moments when you need nourishment, both mind, body, spirit. So, the whole bit, give me some comfort food.
It was like really great. And I And when I read that, I was like, that'd be so cool to
What a
combine
great- yeah.
life stories
Right.
with a cookbook. And then when you brought this to me and you were so open to like what I had envisioned
Right.
like 20 some years ago, and here I am now, like pinch me. I can't even believe like I'm writing a cookbook, but also like a mini memoir in a way.
Well, I mean, and that's where I think I think it's really important that that's the way it's evolving, because then people are going to show up.
Right.
You know, whether they want to just eat your recipes or they want to make your recipes or they just want to be in the same room, which is why we're making this really about the experience. It's very experiential, everything.
Yes.
And I love how these little anecdotes, these stories, these moments are going to pop up, you know, throughout the book in a unique way, which you'll probably, I mean, the way we've been talking about, you could probably just follow those through the book. And then there's going to be the recipes. So there will be these varying layers, which I think those threads are so important.
They are.
In the storytelling part of it. Because once you actually, you know, break the bread, you got to tell a story.
Exactly.
I mean, because this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Usually when we break bread, what do?
We're telling stories. We're laughing.
Yes.
We're remember that time. And all this stuff. And what's great about it is I hope, one, like people read it and they feel like, oh my gosh, I've had something like that happen to me, or that was so great.
Right.
Or two, it's people who were maybe there.
Right.
It's nostalgic to say, oh, I forgot about that. Or
Right.
I was totally there when that happened.
Oh my God, I've been there and done that. I mean, it was just but you know what? I learned a lesson, or I gained insight, or I made a best friend.
Well, and the best part about it is some of these stories and some of these recipes and some of these inspirations that came from my life and some of these great places that I have worked and people I have learned from, some of these people and places are no longer with us. And we can mourn those great chefs that we've learned from, that were friends of ours. We mourn places. You know, I mean, I'll just put it out there. Look at Larimer Square. It is not what it used to be. And we can look at these places that once were full of so much life, and we bring life back to them by talking to them about them, by remembering them.
Well, this is memory.
Yeah.
This is, you know, we talk about wisdom.
Yeah.
We talk about, you know, all of these different parts that make up kind of the universe that we have to navigate. But I so feel that this is where I'm such a big advocate of sharing stories, especially history.
Yeah.
Because, you know, history is living with us each and every day.
It is.
No matter how, I mean, we're building a museum in Pueblo in honor of Leonardo da Vinci, who died 500 years ago.
Right.
I mean, we're building a temple to a man. I mean, only Jesus gets that kind of accolade. So, you know, memory, history, I mean, it is a living thing. And to be able to bring that to people the way in which you have brought this to the Pueblo Star Journal, not only just initially with your recipes. I mean, it's almost like you've been sprinkling the breadcrumbs out, you know, and here we are, we're getting ready for the big meal.
I plant seeds.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about planting seeds and then you see what happens. And I really feel like I've been collecting my garden and collecting my seeds that I've been planting over the last 25 years, and experiences and what I've learned from people and learned from the industry. And really, that's who makes me who I am. And there's memory in food. So if I can recreate food and create an experience and make you remember something and feel something that touches you, then I've done my job.
And it's, I mean, I think about it, you know, my mom would make lasagna for me every birthday. It was just a dish. And, you know, those moments are associated with that dish. And even to this day, no matter where I order lasagna, if I order it here in Pueblo at a restaurant, someone makes it for me, or I'm in Italy or anywhere in the world because it's a common pasta dish, that memory comes back immediately. Yeah. It's my birthday. It's a moment of celebration. It conjures up my mom and dad, my brother and sister. Those memories come to life. So what I really love about this is that not only do we get to ride with you on your journey, your lived experience, but you're also giving people, you're empowering people, because that's what a cookbook is.
Yeah.
It's a guide. It's a tool for you to journey into this, whether you're a celebrated chef, or whether you just happen to have the gift because you sat around with your grandma or your grandpa, or you just like to make food, make dishes and all that. So I love that part of it. And so,
and I want to do it in a way where the reader like feels capable, confident, and excited.
Right. And I love the fact that, and this is something that we're going to put in the book, is, you might have a recipe for 2, but what if you all of a sudden realize you got 8 people coming in? How do you convert
You
that?
double it.
Exactly. And I know. And
guess what? Death of the dinner party. It no longer exists.
Exactly. And that's kind of one of the goals. We hope to have, maybe we'll be going around town and we'll go maybe as guests to feature some of the new dinner party. Like who's planting seeds? Dinner part
and crashing?
There we go. I love it.
Greg and Joss dinner part or
oh my God, that'll be too much.
I can't talk.
But the one thing I also wanted to mention, just in terms of the structure, before we get on to where we're going to go from here, is, you've intentionally felt, and I totally understand it, this notion of structuring the book through the seasons. Yes. And I think that's an important thing to talk. We're really lucky in Pueblo because we really do have, maybe 6 seasons altogether, or sometimes only 2, depending upon what Mother Nature does. But talk a little bit about just that, because when you think about it, because I have my favorite cookbooks, and some are totally about the seasons. Yeah. Others are about, say, just appetizers. Others are ice cream, desserts. There's a whole variety. But this one I really love because it's going to embrace our local, just our local ecosystem here, just in terms of how we each and every day, embrace the seasons, and why people have come here for literally thousands of years because of the confluence of the Arkansas Fountain water, which meant that we had the capacity, sunshine. We're kind of in this little energy vortex. So I love the fact that seasons, are truly being honored as not only a structure, but as an invitation.
When I was thinking about the structure and you had given me different options, and of course there's like traditions and different stuff, which really kind of falls in, celebrations, traditions.
There are places for it,
for seasons. But for me personally, and this is something we've done with the Pueblo Star Journal recipes, is I follow seasons. I feel like we should eat for the season. We do that because that's the best to fuel our body with the right nutrients. The most nutrient-dense vegetables and produce are going to come if you're eating them in season.
And that's where all the color is too, because now I'm just thinking about this right now. Because you always send me the recipes every month and I go through them. I'm always looking at that picture, the color. So again, eat the rainbow.
Eat with our eyes first.
Exactly. Eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
So this whole thing, I think that's another fun message, that we're actually, as we navigate, as we journey and pass through the seasons, we're going to be seeing different colors.
Yeah.
We're going to be experiencing different flavors.
And so each season should really, be focused on what our bodies should be doing. So like right now is winter. We should be eating hot, warm, comforting food that our body can digest, because we're saving energy right now.
That's right.
So our digestion is a lot slower. So we should aid it by making our food easier to consume.
That's right.
Then we get into spring, right? We're starting to wake up. Like we're like, oh, okay, what's going on here?
We're crawling out of our caves again.
So we're still like more warm foods. Yeah. We're starting to get more vibrant, and things like that. And then we're full for summer. It's hot. We shouldn't be eating comfort, don't get me wrong, we can eat comfort food whenever, but we should be eating more hearty stuff that maybe takes more energy for our bodies, because we need to get that energy because we're out doing stuff.
Right.
And then you have fall, which is saying, hey, we're going to go back to nurturing and getting ready for hibernation.
Right.
And so there's things that we should be eating. So we should eat for the seasons. Look at our ancestors. Look at how they.
I love this because when I grew up in Japan, one of my favorite memories is like roasted chestnuts. The guys out on the streets. Then we would have, because it's so cold and you're standing on a train platform, you could get yakimo, which are the roasted sweet potatoes.
Yep.
You get these, and you put them in your palm, and they're
hand warmers.
They're hand warmers. You do that. But then what I love too is in the Japanese tradition, you actually choose the flowers, you choose the container, you choose, depending upon the season, to convey coolness.
Yeah.
It used to frustrate me that they would put furin, which are the chimes, up in the summertime, and when they blow, you're supposed to feel cooler. They put them in the well. I mean, that's a far-fetched thing, because when it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity, it doesn't matter.
Nothing's going to make you cooler.
But I can remember going to just 7-Eleven, which 7-Elevens in Japan are unbelievable. You go to 7-Eleven, and in the winter, right at the cash register is oden. It's a huge pot of boiling broth with all these little things, and you pull literally right at the counter. It's not there any other time of the year.
Wow.
And then you can switch it. You can get zaru soba, which is the buckwheat noodles, and in the summertime they throw crushed ice on top of it, and you eat it with the sauce in a dip. So again, the seasons are so powerful, and we have that same thing here,
and we do, and that's what's great is we know. There's a short time in May, where we have some of the best asparagus. Best of purple asparagus. But it's like here for you got 3 weeks, and then that's it.
Exactly.
So we grab abundance when it is in season, because that is the way we should
I love it. So basically, what I'd like to do is, another part of this is photography.
Yes.
And I'm so happy that you have this celebrated relationship with an extraordinary individual. Again, this whole process, we're building community. It's almost like we have a little village that's getting together, and we're building this little, cookbook, that will then make, everyone not only understand, but experience, enjoy, share, purchase and give as a gift, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, cookbooks, and this is a long discussion that we've had, is, imagery is really important in terms of how, and we've talked a lot about this. So do you want to share a little bit about how photography is going to be a part of it, and who's going to be helping us out on this journey, who will do a separate podcast? So,
we'll bring her in.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. So through this whole journey, I work really closely with the Pueblo Food Project. I'm actually the vice president of the board on the Pueblo Food Project, and I just love them. And I've been doing the Sun Water Soil Summit.
And we're a big sponsor of Pueblo Star Journal. We're a big sponsor.
So we have been the caterer for Sun Water Soil Summit. This will be our 4th year, and we're very excited. This year we're doing some different stuff. So we're working on Friday for the gala. There's going to be a bunch of the entrepreneurs, and we're going to be doing kind of like a taste of Pueblo green chilies and like a taste of all of our foods that we love. And it's going to be more like a sampling this year, which is really great. And then we'll do lunch the following day. However, I have been able to meet this amazing photographer through this process, and her name is Jillian. She has Jillian Brown Photography, do you believe is what it is. And so I met her 4 years ago, and she has been doing the pictures for Sun Water Soil Summit. And this woman... I will just say I have worked with a lot of photographers. I've worked with a lot of photographers around food. I've learned a lot about taking food pictures myself. Food pictures are not easy to make them look really good.
It's an art. It truly really is an art.
And she just has an eye, and she is great. But the best part about her is she captures moments.
Yeah.
And she, when you look at her pictures after you get them, she has captured moments of me and my assistant and me doing food that just is so beautiful. And it just captures a feeling and an emotion. Yeah. And that's what I want in the book. Yeah. And like we've said, and you were like, Jocelyn, like the whole time, we want to make sure your voice is heard. Yeah. Aesthetically, like I want her to capture me as a person, but actually my food, because it represents me.
Exactly.
And so she just does it so beautifully.
Well, and I just
love her.
Well, and I have a beautiful experience in the food and beverage industry with Jillian, because a few years ago, Brews Ale House.
Yes.
So they
cocktails.
Yes, I wish they would start it again, but they asked about, I think it was 6 to 8 people who were in arts, culture in the community. And they asked us to come, and we worked with the bartender. She was the photographer, kind of the creative. She was the producer. She really did the whole thing. She brought everyone together. And we got to watch a cocktail in the making, and then we got to name it.
It's so great.
So my cocktail, which was, I mean, I can't tell you the number of ingredients. There must have been at least 10, 11, 12 ingredients. But the key ingredient was absinthe. And when it was all done and said, it was just this like autumnal, velvety, like, I mean, you literally were drinking fall foliage. I mean, and what was beautiful is, if you know absinthe, it can be
very herbaceous.
Yeah, it can be pretty brutal, but it when you first took the drink, it was velvety, and then you got the absinthe, and then it just kind of, it had that lingering feeling, not like kind of clinical or medicinal in any way, because sometimes you get that toxicity and it's really
the
harsh.
botanicals could be a
So
little
I
difficult.
called it Absinthe Forgotten. That was the name of it. Well, the most hilarious part was once they published it in the menu, I swear a week would not go by. Sometimes I'd get 5, 10, 15, 20 texts with pictures saying, Gregory, I'm drinking your cocktail, Absinthe Forgotten. So it was just a really fun way, because what she was able to create, and thanks to Bruce, for being able to allow a creative in that capacity. But those were experiences, not only for me, but also for each and every person that sat down and looked at the menu and thought, what do I want to drink? And clearly that wasn't what they were going to drink when they got there. So we created this just fun opportunity to try something different.
And what was great about that is going back to pandemic, that's like when that was. And so she was realizing that the artist connection and the community wasn't coming together, and she wanted something for inspiration.
Right.
And so that's what's so great about it is, again.
And you could get them to go too back then.
I know.
That was the best part.
Put a lid on it.
I could put a lid on it. I want 3 of those to go.
If you put that tape on the straw, I promise I won't drink it.
I know. I go around now and I say, can I get that to go? I said, no, that was only during the pandemic. I say, really? Who's going to bust you?
Special circumstances.
Exactly. I named that cocktail. Can you please let me take it to go? Because when they gave me the brews, the beer in the cans, when you could get them to go, oh my God, it was so much fun, so much fun. But no, I'm really excited that we're able to bring someone on board. We also have some other people. We haven't confirmed them yet, but we have an amazing artist that does line work, does caricatures, and really, really, because again, this gets back to the humor and the ability to kind of laugh at an experience or joke about it or walk away from that page. If you're waiting for the pasta to boil or you're waiting for something to cook and you're reading this joke, you're going to laugh.
Right.
You're going to need a box of Kleenex sometimes. Who knows which way it's going to go.
We'll see.
But that's really, really what's fun. But so let's just talk a little bit.
Well, that's what's great about it. So I just have to say it is kind of a memoir. So I don't know. If there's anyone in there who doesn't want to be in it, you better reach out to me now.
But and so basically, just to kind of give an overview, so we've got this seasonal chapter structure. So people are going to navigate the book through the seasons. We're going to have essays with little recipe clusters because I love this notion. We talked about this, how do we bundle? How do we cluster the recipes in the season? Every recipe is tested at least twice. And what I love about this is that there's going to be a community test event.
Yes.
What is that all about?
Well, I mean, we were just thinking, if it has to be tested twice, we're going to have to get someone who's going to test it, and we're going to get one person. And Pueblo's all about community, and we're all about events. We love a good event. Yeah.
Especially when there's cocktails. It seems like every event has cocktails.
And so since, I'm so involved in the food scene, and you are too, we have so much access to availability with like Fuel Kitchens and these other kitchens that are available. It's like, why not get the people involved?
Exactly.
And so I thought it was just such a cool idea to have an event where we have all the recipes out, maybe at different stations, and maybe it's a politician in town, maybe it's just a regular person, maybe it's like another chef, but then maybe they each have their own space and everyone comes in and tries the recipes.
And I'm just thinking,
and I think it's great.
And I think right now that you're actually saying this, articulating it, because we've thought about it a few times. My God, there's probably going to be some stories that are going to surface.
I love it.
With the politician who eats one of your dishes and says something absolutely hilarious. It may be one of those funny moments in the book.
You never know. You never know what ends up in there.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole thing.
I love it.
We're capturing a moment, but it's also that experience that hopefully others will want to share.
Exactly.
With their family, with their friends.
Well, and this is something that's really cool too, is we could always do something where it's like, hey, send me your stories. Like I would love to hear other people's stories.
That's where I was going to go next, because this is volume 1.
I know.
So what does that mean? I mean, you could have a whole cookbook.
There's more.
There's going to be so much more. But the fact that we're really honoring photography, a professional photography, kind of standard, which is going to be integral. Then we have really clear editorial review. I mean, we're really going to look at this, and it's really serious. I mean, this is really going to be something that is going to set a standard, and I'm really happy. And that's something that the Pueblo Star Journal hopes to be able to do. And I hope it's a call to action, so that if you're 5 years old, or if you're 95 years old, 5-year-old wants to do a comic book, we're going to be able to publish comic books.
I love it.
If there's someone that wants to write a poetry book, we can publish the poetry book. And I love that part of it, because what we're essentially doing is we're building community.
Exactly.
Every step of the way.
It takes a tribe for everything.
It does. And Pueblo has always been its worst own storyteller. So let's I kind of like that we're off the radar a little bit, but I'm tired of the cursing, shall we say, of this part of Southern Colorado, because unless you come down, man, this is the place to be, really.
Yeah, but when we go anywhere else, they know that we're so much fun.
Right. So basically, we've got volume 1, which when you say 1, that means, well, what's next? Well, stay tuned.
Yes.
Then we've got community tastings. We've got future editions. Publishing that's rooted in Pueblo. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing.
I love it.
And that's a pun. I didn't rooted in Pueblo.
Rooted in Pueblo. It is a pun.
That's a pun there. Yeah, because we eat roots. I know we do in Japan. We eat a lot of roots.
We do.
Roots are good. And a lot of people don't realize a lot of things they eat are roots.
Potatoes and carrots.
And ginger, all that stuff. Oh, all that good stuff under the dirt. And then this is the other thing that I think is so important. We've talked about this, but this notion of rebuilding ritual and conversation. There's something to be said about that. And it doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be religious. It's spiritual, really, more than anything else. And we all come.
It's soulful.
Exactly. Well, see, there we go. And that's the whole title of this whole podcast, really. I mean, I love it. So I guess we're kind of at the final minutes here now. So one of the things is that we are going to put a call out for tasters, which we're, and you and I just talked about this before we started the podcast. We're not about exclusivity, but we are about scarcity. So we really want people, because we can't have 300 people in a tasting. But we do want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity in some shape or form to be able to participate. So it may be such that, and we were talking about this earlier, I love when I can find the chef's table, wherever that is, in the restaurant, in the kitchen, in the basement, in an adjoining room. But those things are really, but we can actually, through video, we could actually create a larger audience in conjunction and then have a tasting in the room next to it. But who's going to be front and center, So these are things that we're going to work out. And we'll be doing it in different ways to see what works. Okay. But really, we're gonna watch this evolve, and then when the appropriate time comes, if you're following this podcast, you'll be first to know what you need to do to be able to participate, because it won't be exclusive.
No.
It'll just be scarce. So keep that in mind. So that means you need to pay attention.
Exactly.
That's the best part.
Because how fun will it be to learn to cook, to try something, to be a part of something, but then also to get education and take something away.
Right. And then you can go back and say, you're not going to believe what I did last night.
Right.
I got to be in this underground kitchen and there were like 15 of us and it was fucking amazing. And look at
we were there. We were cooking all this crazy food.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so in terms of how people can follow this is our first podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll be putting a lot of instructions, not only in the podcast. And for those of you, this will be available. I'm so excited how this podcast actually turned out today. And I can't wait to get it live, which tonight, hopefully we'll be able to get it live. Then it will go to every single. So if you get your podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, this will live there. So you'll just want to look for the Soul Fresh, Soul Clean podcast. That's the official. It will be searchable that way. It will live in all these different little universes, but it will come from the Pueblo Star Journal. So, but you're big on Instagram. That's really, your website is beautiful. So we'll make sure that we have the website. We'll make sure Instagram, all of those links will be in the description. So that will go universally to all the platforms. So that'll be fun too. So, we'll just meet you where you are. That's really how this works. That's been our intent. But the other thing too is, how can people just reach out to you if they have an idea, or maybe they want to participate, maybe they want to volunteer? We love volunteers.
Yeah.
They're important in our culture. But what's the best way to reach you, just in terms of, other than the website and social media? Can they get you at your Pueblo Star Journal email address and things?
They can. Yep. So I would suggest anything probably podcast wise or Pueblo Star Journal wise, cookbook wise. I would send people to my email, which is jocelyn@pueblostarjournal.org.
That's perfect. Yeah, you got it.
So that's where we'll be. If not, please visit my website, which is Soul Smile Health and Wellness. You can also find me on Instagram, where we also post all the links and everything like that. We are huge on community and sharing people's stories. And so, so follow us at all the places and share our stories, share your stories with us. I would love to hear them.
Well, and that's what it's all about. We started the Pueblo Star Journal, and really it starts with story, really, more than anything else. And being a service and deliberative nonprofit newsroom with no paywalls, it's free of charge. You will never find a roadblock in the storytelling, platforms of the Pueblo Star Journal. So it doesn't matter. I hate it when I go onto a website, I'm reading a story and they give me like 2 paragraphs and I read on and then I find I got to pay a subscription.
I know.
I get it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
So you will never find that at the Pueblo Star Journal. And that was one of our promises at the outset, that not only will the paper be free, but that, and I don't even like to use the word free. Nothing is
available.
Free. Yeah. I mean, we're a nonprofit newsroom. So you can go to our website if you want to help us out. We're part of ColoradoGives.org. That's our main, fundraising platform. And we love it when we go on there and we find someone gave us $10, someone gave us $100, sometimes they give us $1,000. And then we love it when someone just says, you know what, I'm going to give you $10 a month, and you can do recurring. So you all know what the value of our newspaper is. And one thing that will be coming up, as we told you earlier, we're going to be expanding to 56 pages in this upcoming March 6th edition. But we're getting a lot of requests from outside of the state. So people who used to live here or people who maybe want to move here. So you'll be able to subscribe, and we're going to be mailing out the paper edition to everyone. So there'll be a new subscription category, and it's like $5 a month. So like for $60 a year, we haven't set the exact price, but probably like around $60 a year, you'll be able to send the gift of Pueblo to yourself or to anyone else that you might want to give Pueblo stories too. So look forward to that. So I'm going to give you the last word, Jocelyn, before we sign off. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? This has been a lot of fun, and I hope people will subscribe and want to listen to the next episode when we take this journey further.
Me as well. I do as well. That's why I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited to share all this information. And for me going forward, I just really hope that this is a space where we can have real, raw conversation about, our journey on the cookbook is great, but also just about life and about nutrition and about food and about what's going on with agriculture, what's important about health and wellness and life. Like, I really hope like those things come up here, and it's a space where people can come and feel seen and feel heard and feel like they're not alone, but also get resources and laugh and get tips and tricks. That is what I want all along, while giving good recipes and like fun tips and tricks on different food and stuff. So I hope it creates this space of feeling like you're going to a friend's house, you're going to be talking, you're going to be cooking, you're going to be learning new things and just having a good time. And I hope that that's like a space that this podcast creates, which is just a place of fresh air where people can show up.
And I think that you've nailed it. So this is a safe space. That's what we're trying to create, and that's what it will be. But I can guarantee you, even if your question has nothing to do with food, you're going to end up at the end of the conversation talking about food.
Every time.
So that's where I'd like to end it. So thank you so much for listening to the Voices of Pueblo podcast. This has been the very first episode of Soul Fresh, Soul Clean, and we look forward to having you on this journey in the future. Thanks again for supporting local news in Pueblo, Colorado. Thank you and goodbye.
You've been listening to Soul Fresh, Soul Clean, Episode 1. This is a production of the Voices of Pueblo podcast, presented by the Pueblo Star Journal. This episode was produced and narrated by Jocelyn Martinez and Gregory Howell. To learn more and to support nonprofit local news in Pueblo, Colorado, visit pueblostarjournal.org. If you would like to share your food story, reach out to Jocelyn at pueblostarjournal.org. We want to hear from you. Thank you for listening.